Elsie Jensen here. Tonight we are going to make some chicken parmesan. We're going to bake up our specialty sourdough loaf, which is Gouda and black pepper. And we're going to make a kind of a garden salad with a white wine creamy vinaigrette. So let's start by getting our sourdough out and scored. We'll pop it out on our parchment paper here. And slide this guy over here. And we'll make a nice nice expansion score. You know what? Let's do one right down the middle. I'm always doing it on the side. It's kind of like your side part in your hair. You get so stuck on that. Then you always do the same thing. But we'll do a little bit different. We'll do our little lines up on the side. We'll go down this way as well. And we'll pop this in the oven. This is one of my favorite loaves. It has black pepper and sourdough. That combination is so delicious. It's my husband's favorite. And my mom, who's normally just a traditionalist when it comes to sourdough loaf, I made this for her the other day, and she couldn't stop talking about how good it was. And it really is. It's just black pepper really just makes it pop. I think this the two flavors of sourdough, and then of course the cheese. The cheese just makes everything better, but so good. We're going to pop this in our oven at 500 degrees. We're going to bake it for 20 minutes at 500. Then we will take the lid off and bake it for 20 minutes at 450. So let's put it in and let's get going with the rest of our dinner here. We'll bring our water up to a boil, and then we'll drop our pasta in because we'll toss that into our sauce for our chicken parm. But let's start by getting our dredge made. And I actually decided, because I'm typically pretty messy with my dredge, I'm going to go with a slightly bigger bowl. Still a little wet from earlier, hand washed. Because I am pretty messy. And you know what? We're going to even switch this. Got my salad bowls a little bit better because this one's deeper and wider. There we go. So we're going to make up our seasoned dredge for our chicken parm, and we'll kind of fillet. Some of these chicken breasts are really thin, so I don't need to fillet them. Some of them are thick, so I will fillet them in half for this. Our mixture, we're going to start and do like an Italian seasoning on it, and then I'm going to add a mixture of Parmesan cheese and panko breadcrumbs to it to give it that kind of crunch to it for our dish here. So we're going to do, since I have a good amount, we're going to do about 2 cups, which is going to get us almost all of this flour, which no worries, I always have more flour. So will be a refill later. So about 2 cups of flour in here. And then we're going to add in some garlic salt. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you, this is the last of my garlic salt. I have to go grocery shopping. And I'm hoping this can last me till the end of the week, or it's going to be, I just might need to get on Amazon tonight and order some more just to get it here. But we're going to put in about a tablespoon of garlic salt in here because we need a lot, which is diminishing my capacity a lot. So this is on my to-do list. Check. Remind me to order more tonight, because if I don't, it just changes everything. I don't know if I could, my food would taste the same without it. We've got some oregano here. We're going to do about a tablespoon of oregano. It's a really mild spice, but amazing. And then I'm going to do, since again, we have a good amount of chicken here, we're going to do about a teaspoon of ground black pepper. And then I'm going to do about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. Now, I can go without a lot of spices. My garlic salt is wearing me now. When we get a fork, we're going to give this a toss, and this is just our base kind of flavoring for it. Again, we will add Parmesan cheese and panko breadcrumbs for the second round. But let's mix this around. Look at this. I'm already going to be less messy. It only took me, how long to just move up a size. There we go. And And then I've got 4 eggs because 4 eggs should about do it with this. Let me slide this over here. And then we'll kind of whip these up. And then I'm going to start filleting my bigger pieces of chicken on there because we don't.
Have a question for people that don't like Parmesan cheese. What's a good substitute?
You could always just do more panko breadcrumbs for this. You can't really sub in other cheeses because Parmesan is such a dry cheese to begin with. It works well for using it to kind of crisp up and do that nice frying for it. But if you don't like it, just completely omit it and add more panko breadcrumbs.
Chad's pretty concerned about the garlic salt.
I know. I'm pretty.
Step away and order it.
I know. I'm pretty concerned here. I will have it on my. I'm gonna. You know what? This is what I'm gonna do. I have told my husband. So you guys have heard it. If it's not ordered tonight, then who are we going to blame tomorrow? Who are we going to blame tomorrow? We are going to blame JJ. So I'm just gonna tell you, it is all there. He knows his job. Whether it gets completed, you know, I'm just saying. He has a task. We'll see if he remembers. So we're going to mix this up. Just make sure you don't have any really big stringy egg whites in there. So just have it mixed, because if you try to bread it and then you take this little glob with you, it's going to make a really snotty, gross piece in your chicken. So just make sure it's whipped up really well. You don't need to add anything to it because you've got your dredge and everything seasoned up and flavored. And let's get our noodles dropped in over here since we've got a good boil on it. So we're going to have our little bow tie, also called our flavorful noodles. I just call them, you know, the bow ties because they're just like little bow ties. And we're going to bring these to a boil. I'm not going to use this whole box because this is like a pound of noodles. And that's a lot of noodles. I feel like we eat way more pasta than we should do, like the amount. And I used to always make way too much noodles. And now I've learned that even though we are a large family, we do not eat a whole box of noodles. We're just not a huge, we all love pasta, but we don't eat it in huge amounts. And I am a person who likes to have lots of different sides. So more of smaller portions of everything, but lots of options. Okay, everybody but the cameraman loves pasta. So that's everyone that counts. It's just like salmon. We all love salmon, except one person. So we're still going to have salmon because it's delicious. And he will just learn to love this stuff with time.
It's been 18 years.
Yeah, well, you know, just got to learn to love it a little bit more. It's what, you know, my aunt used to tell me this story growing up that when they were younger, they would like get this bag of licorice. And there was always these licorice pieces that nobody really liked. And she trained herself to like them. And so in the beginning, everybody would be fighting over the good pieces. So she made sure she got those first. And then because she kind of just trained herself to like it, she had all of the pieces that nobody else liked at the end to herself. And I'm like, you know, that's pretty smart. And then I realized, you know, I did something very similar with popsicles. I was the only person growing up who liked root beer and banana popsicles. And so, of course, I would never eat the root beer and banana popsicles first because I liked all the other flavors. But my mom was very big that nobody could open up a new box of popsicles until the root beer and banana popsicles were eaten, because that was always, you know, the mixed flavored always has them. So then I was like the hero of the day. My siblings would like champion them on. They'd bring me all the popsicles and they'd be like, come on, you can do it. You can do it. Eat the popsicles so we can open up the next box. And sure enough, I, you know, did my job, you know, suffered through those delicious popsicles. And to this day, I still love root beer and banana popsicles. They are the best flavors. So he just has to do mind over matter here. Okay, let's get our first coating dredged here. Kind of coat them up on this. Make it nice all the way around. And then we'll pop it right back over here. And then we'll get ready to add in our panko breadcrumbs and our Parmesan cheese. This first coating is really, really important or creating like a binding kind of like a glue base that will hold all of your second layer on. So the other day we made schnitzel, which is a very different type of kind of thing, similar but different, where instead of mixing your breadcrumbs and everything into your dredge, you just go straight breadcrumbs, which makes a really great crunch onto your schnitzel. But the only downside of schnitzel is it's not as like flavorful in the sense because your breadcrumbs aren't as flavored as your dredge. So I was like, next time I said, I'll maybe add some spices to my breadcrumbs because I had just plain breadcrumbs instead of seasoned, which are a little bit nicer. Let's get this guy, coat him up. This one's kind of fat, so I might need to fillet him. Let me go grab my knife back because that one would take for a very long time to cook up if I left him. These little ones are small. Sometimes you never know what you're going to get, but let me go grab my knife back out of my sink here.
How was the brunch today?
Oh, those waffles were so good. I was just kind of craving a good waffle, and they were just like that perfect kind of light and crispy. And of course, the hash browns are my favorite. I love like potatoes, savory foods, but it was delicious. It was wonderful. They were all eaten up.
Now, are your parents still without power and with you?
No, they actually got power back yesterday. So they stayed with us until their heat in their house kind of warmed up, because when they first went back, it was like 40 degrees. So it was really, really cold. So they came back after they like turned everything on and reset their alarms. But they spent last night over there. I wasn't sure if they were going to keep power because, it's still a lot of trees are still falling around here, and it's a lot of pretty bad devastation from the ice storm, but they still have power, and we finally got our internet back today. So that was a win as well, but they are home. Although my mom was like, I really, even though we live like 3 miles away, she's like, I really, really enjoyed it. It was really nice. And I was like, I know, because you were like on vacation, but you really had nothing you had to do, food was cooked for you, hot meals, entertainment. We're going to add in our panko breadcrumbs. And we're just going to use the rest of that. Our Parmesan cheese. Now you can use either like grated yourself or pre-grated works for this. Pre-grated works really well because it's a bit more dry than freshly grated. But I just happen to have just freshly grated here. So we're going to add in. You want about a half a cup of this in here. So we're going to have a good grating going on, and we'll mix it in. You don't want to go too heavy on it because, of course, you don't want to have too much cheese in there where it gets a little too crisp, because the pieces of your cheese are going to be a slightly darker color than the rest of your fry, but they will be very, very crispy, and they have just that like delicious flavor to it. So we'll get this in here. And again, if you don't like Parmesan cheese, you can definitely skip it out. Although it's not really going to taste so much like Parmesan cheese, it's going to give it an actual, like a more of a crisp to your fried chicken here. There we go. We're just about mixed up into it. And then it'll give us a nice little toss into our dredge. It's funny how, there we go, that should be good.
Are your kids back at school yet?
No, we actually just got the call that they're going to be out Friday as well. There's a lot of areas here that are still without power. And so I think that's in there. And just so many where we live, like up north, they do it by town, by little town. Here, when the schools are out, it's by county. So if one part of our county is out, all of our county is out. And so there's still a lot of ice and stuff out there. My hands are. I'm gonna pour my oil in here so it can start heating up on there. So it's a little bit different because we're not used to getting inclement weather, or at least major inclement weather like this. So it's county-wide versus city-wide. And so there's just a lot of areas, especially rural areas, that have a lot more, ice on the roads. And anywhere, I will say, anywhere where the sun did not hit the road, it is still a complete ice patch out there. Like, it's funny the way our driveway and our neighbors' driveways, they're right next to it, but our driveway gets no sun on it and theirs isn't sun. And their driveway is melted and ours is still a sheet of ice. And it's like that thick of ice. So it is pretty dangerous out there. Okay, we're gonna get our oil heating up so that we can start frying off our chicken in there. And then we'll start getting this kind of dredged over. I'm gonna just make some room so that we can kind of lay it out. We're gonna go into our egg, and I'm gonna just use one hand for this so that I can keep one hand clean. And then into our mixture of our panko and our Parmesan cheese. And you can see you've got that kind of almost looks like shredded coconut. But we have that on there, and that's going to crisp up nicely. That cheese, again, Parmesan has a low moisture content, so it really crisps up well when you're frying it.
How long have you had your ice class?
I've had mine for a little over 2 years now, and I absolutely love them. I haven't damaged them or ruined them, which is a big win. And they're really easy to clean, and I will say they conduct heat really well. It's different if you're used to cooking from like an all metal standpoint. So I have my all clad, which are the metal base, that conducts heat a little bit faster because the nonstick coating, of course, slows down that conduction. But so you just need a little bit of a longer preheat that time. But I love it mainly because, again, it is nonstick and stuff doesn't really stick to it at all. And it's really easy to clean. And that's really the big winner because nobody wants to scrub a pot and pan. And I will say, I mean, they truly hard. As much as I've like told my kids not to stick a fork or anything in the pan, they've done it to grab stuff out. And, I still always try to use like either silicone coated utensils with it, because just like with the previous nonstick, they were like, no metal, you'll scratch it, I'll ruin it. So I pretty much use all of that, especially since silicone is heat safe up to like 500, 600 degrees.
And are they dishwasher safe?
I don't believe so, but I always just hand wash. My husband hand washes them. So, but I mean, I don't, most pots and pans, I mean, they're just so big. We just don't have room to put them in there with all of our things, but they could be. We just don't have room in there. So I've never tried it. I know with like certain things like cast iron, you don't put them in there, but I mean, they might be able to. We'll have to look on that.
Can you go over what the coating is both times?
Yes. So the first time we did this, we did our seasoned flour, which is flour, garlic, salt, oregano, Italian seasoning, black pepper. We mixed that up and we dredged everything our first time. Then we mixed up our eggs and then we added in Parmesan cheese and panko breadcrumbs to our seasoned flour dredge. And that's what we are coating it with now that we've dipped it into the egg. There we go. And it kind of just coats it up and it gives it to it. So here you've got that base coating and that first dredge without the Parmesan cheese and the panko breadcrumb, because you just want it to have a nice like powdery texture, allows this egg to really stick onto it. And then we can take this next coating and really kind of pat it on and get it there to stick. And then we're waiting for our oil to heat up. I have it heating up on right now like a 7, and then we'll turn it down to around a 4.5, 5 to cook our chicken on, because I like to cook my chicken over a medium temperature. Don't want it, when you're frying foods, you don't want to cook it too high, because what will happen is you will cook the outside of your food before you have cooked the inside. So it will look beautiful and crispy and done, but it will be raw on the inside. So go low and slow. A medium temperature is perfect. Now don't go so low, down on low, then you'll just have a soggy fry. But you want your oil to be warm and hot when you put it in so it sizzles, but not too hot that you're going to burn it before you've got it cooked all the way through. And it's the best thing is just don't rush it. It takes a little bit longer, but it's worth the wait, especially if you're going to do it yourself and do all the work to hand dredge everything. And I will say, most of everything I'm doing, we're doing for a large family. So you get to see all of these steps multiple times. Most of you guys aren't cooking for, 7 to 9 people, which means you all can cut all of these steps in half. There we go. And then this is why we use just one hand, because I have a free hand to work with and one dirty hand.
Do you have a black stone?
I do not have a Blackstone. So one of my goals is to redo our outside kitchen. My parents, on the other hand, have a very nice and very bougie outdoor kitchen. If you've seen any of our summer outdoor cooking videos, you will see that they have a cooktop. It's not a Blackstone, it's more bougie, but it's the same thing. And I really enjoy cooking on that. But that's kind of my goal, is to hopefully maybe this summer, if we get around to it, is to get to build our own outdoor kitchen. Now, it will never be at the level of my parents, because that is an outdoor kitchen that we all can strive and dream for. But I get to cook there fairly often. So that's what I said. Well, if we had lost heat, I said, well, we could have always gone over there, because theirs is hooked up to natural gas, and I could have made you guys great meals out, and had to clear away a couple sheets of ice, but could have cooked pizzas there at least. Luckily, we did not lose power. Okay, looks like I'm gonna drop a little piece in, see if we're hot. Let it heat up a little bit more. I want a little more of a sizzle than that. Well, now we got our sizzle. So I'm going to put in our chicken fillets here. Try not to overcrowd your chicken when you're going in. Make sure you have at least a little space between each piece. So I'm going to drop in our fillets. I probably get 4 in here, as I can get one more over there. So I'm going to slide it and get a small one. There we go. But just to have like a little area between each one. I'm going to turn this down, and let's go grab our sourdough out of the oven. We'll take our lid off, and then I'm going to check our noodles and see if they're ready. Okay. Oh, I hear you. I will say, my previous ovens that we had before we did our kitchen remodel, could never hear it beep. This one, it beeps and it beeps, and it doesn't let you forget you have something in there. Here is our beautiful Gouda and black pepper. You can see that nice little expansion and that cheese in there. Now we're going to bake it with the lid off, which is going to give you that beautiful golden brown crust on it.
Do you ever have leftovers?
If we have leftovers, they are typically designated for my parents to go over to their house for their dinner or lunch the next day. So they don't always eat dinner with us because we are a late night dinner people, and they are like the early bird special people. And so we don't quite, jive on our dinner times. But they typically will pick it up, or they'll eat our lunches. I always make, like when I do my soup lunches, they'll eat our lunches for their dinner. And then they'll pick up our dinner and kind of have it for their lunches. So we kind of go that way. But they're essentially our leftovers people. My stepdad is amazing at eating all of the leftovers. So no food goes to waste. Perfect. You want to cook your noodles, since I'm going to be putting them into a sauce right at an al dente, so they'll still have a nice little firmness to them. You don't want to overcook them. You don't want them too soft. You can always leave them a little bit less than al dente as well. Because we're having a marinara-based sauce, I don't need to reserve any of my pasta water. And I didn't put any of my salt in my pasta water either, because I don't want the added salt in it.
A little off topic, but where did you get your sandals?
Everyone loves these sandals. They are from Target, good old Target. You know, it's so funny. My daughter and I have these same sandals, except I have way bigger feet than her. And they're just really comfortable slide-ons. They're like a copycat version of a Birkenstock, but these cost like $20, which is a win on there. I love them. They're very, very comfortable. And they make me really tall. I'm already pretty tall. I'm 5'9", but with these guys on, I'm like, 5'11", pushing 6 foot if I stand up really tall. Not really, but I hope.
And can you go over the breading when you get them?
Yes. So our breading on our chicken right here is we did our like double dredge method. So we seasoned up our dredging the first time with flour, Italian seasoning, oregano, garlic salt, and black pepper. And then we, dipped it, dredged it, dipped it in egg, and then we added in panko breadcrumbs and Parmesan cheese to the second round of it, which will give it a nice crispness to it, and that cheese will give it a good crunch as well. Now the cheese cooks up a little bit darker and a little bit crispier than the rest of it, but it does make it delicious. Let's grab our garlic out. We're going to mince up some garlic for our sauce and our world's tiniest onion here. It's a very small onion for me because normally I'm always the one who has to buy like the biggest onion. And I will tell you, it is so cold outside that my fridge outside is freezing everything. But that's okay. You can see it's still partially frozen and won't impact the flavor. I know I was like sitting here and I'm like, that's the only problem when, most of the time here in Tennessee, we just live a little bit south of Nashville. It doesn't get that cold. And when it does, though, it gets cold. And our houses are not insulated. I swear there is no insulation between these walls and the outdoors. And it is very, very hard for it to stay nice and warm. There we go. So there's our partially frozen onion. We're going to add this in here. We're going to let it saute up for our sauce because I like to just jazz up our sauce a little bit. And then we'll get some minced garlic in here. But I'm going to just chop up a little bit smaller so we have it a little bit finer. And then we're going to be ready to probably flip some of our chicken here in just a second. I'm going to rotate my pan because one thing I have noticed is my stove cooks higher up here than it does down here. So I like to rotate it to make sure that it cooks as evenly as possible. There we go. And then we're going to mince up our garlic here. So this will give me about a tablespoon and a half of fresh minced garlic, which will add a great bit of flavor. Especially since I'm using for our sauce, I'm using a mixture of marinara and a vodka sauce. Add a little bit of creaminess to it for our chicken parm. Just a little nice. I love a good vodka sauce. And I will say, most of the time, I'm not a big fan of a store-bought vodka sauce. But I will say Rayo's makes a pretty darn good one because it doesn't taste too, processed. But I always say, making your own homemade sauce is amazing and wonderful, especially in the summer if you have lots of tomatoes and everything like that. But it is a process and does take a time. You can always get great store-bought ones. You just have to go and find the one that you love. Every store-bought sauce has different flavor profiles, and people love different ones for different reasons. So I always suggest if you haven't found one you like, just go and buy a different brand every single time until you find the one that you like. Because there's a million out there. And once you've settled on the one you're like, then it can make some of your Italian dishes go so much easier. Bougie, your shells, your spaghetti and meatballs. You change it up. If you've got your sauce base that you like, that's what you want.
Do you ever make your own sauce?
I do make my own sauce. When my summertime, when my tomatoes are when I have a really good harvest, or if they're like a really great sale of tomatoes at the store and I'm just got a lot of time on my hands, I will. But like this year, my tomato plants did not, they were stuck in like green tomato plant stage for such a long time that we had like fried green tomatoes because they just did not want to leave that stage. Let's get this guy. So when I do, and I do love a good one, but again, it's, you know, it does take a minute to get them going here. Let me slide this guy around. Here we go. So you can see all these little darker crispy edges. Those little ones, that's the cheese crisping up. Beautiful. And we'll slide this here. And I find it's really nice if you use a spatula and tongs to flip and turn, because your spatula you can lift over, and then your tongs, that's going to prevent you from splashing yourself with your grease. Makes it a little bit easier. I think I must have pulled off some of my breading down there. Okay. Let's turn this guy. Let's get this going. Got our onions just about. And then we're going to add in our garlic here. We'll let this toast up for just a second or so. We'll let that garlic really bring out its flavor before we add in our sauce, and then we'll let that simmer. But we want our garlic to toast up for about a minute. With a metal pan, you really need to watch your garlic, more so than you would with a nonstick pan, because that garlic will go from being, you know, nice and golden brown to burnt really, really fast, because heat conducts faster in your all metal pans than your nonstick pan. So you just have to watch that a little bit more carefully and just turn your heat down a little bit. There we go. Spread that out. We'll let that sit for a second. I'm going to grab some paper towels and get ready to pop these out so that they can soak up any extra oil on them. We'll do it on a baking sheet versus a plate.
What kind of pots, pans, and knives do you recommend?
So for your non-stick, I really love the Hexclad. So this is the Hexclad here, and I absolutely love it on there. We'll get this right here and then I'll do it. But these are the Hexclad, and I really, really love them because they are really easy to clean. They conduct heat really well, and they are non-stick and they haven't scratched. For my like basic metalware, which I have for both my sauce pots, stock pots, this is a 6-quart saute pan, I have all Clad. I've had this set for going on almost 17 years now. I got them as a wedding gift. I got a big set of them, and I love them. I've got the frying pans, saute pans, the stock pots, sauce pots, all sorts of things. They're really great. You can use these like a non-stick pan. You just have to heat them up and season them a little bit longer to get to that non-stick cooking surface on them. But I like having the variety of both. And then for my Dutch ovens, I kind of use 2 brands of Dutch ovens, which are Le Creuset, because I've been gifted Le Creuset from my mom throughout the years. And then I have some Staub. And then I will say, actually, I have 3. I have a lot of the Joanna Gaines. I have her little mini ones, and then I have a rectangle ones of hers. They're very reasonably priced, and so far they've held up for what I've used them with. Okay, it looks like our garlic and our onions have got a nice little crisp on them. So we're gonna turn this down to a low simmer. Actually, before we add in our things, I'm gonna add in a little bit of dry spices and let them toast up. There it is. We're gonna add in a little bit of oregano. I'm gonna do about a half a teaspoon. I will say one thing that's nice about Rao's is it's not an overly spiced marinara sauce or their vodka sauce, so you can add more spices to it. It's a good base sauce. Sometimes you get a lot. You can get some of theirs to have more flavor to it, but their base one is very, very, very basic. Just tomatoes and oil and salt. There we go. We're going to just toast up these herbs a little bit in that oil. Toasting herbs up or your spices up in oils allows those flavors to come out a little bit more versus just dumping them into the sauce. That direct heat combined with the fat of the oil really allows them to kind of blossom. There we go. Let's check these guys. See how we're going. We're almost there. Looking pretty good. Do a nice little rotation here. Just want it to be a little bit more golden. I'm going to just rotate. Turn this up to about a 4. And then we'll be able to get this first round off. So we've got about a 24-ounce jar of our vodka sauce going in here, which is just kind of a slightly creamy marinara sauce. Has a little bit of Parmesan cheese in it as well. But it's not super heavy, which is why I like it. It's more mild. As I'll say, this is my husband's favorite sauce that he likes. And I always like to mix it with marinara. And then we're going to add in a jar of marinara sauce. There we go. And then I'm going to let this simmer for just a second. I'm going to add in a little bit of water. I'm going to steal a little bit of this, the last of it, because we're going to be able to simmer long enough to cook out the last bit of this liquid, and I'm not one to let any sauce go to waste. Good, the last drop. There we go. It was so funny when I was going right before everything was like sold out because of the store. Almost all the spaghetti sauce was also sold out at the store. It was kind of crazy. There we go. So turn your sauce down super low because, as you know, if you leave your marinara sauce on too high, if you leave it on thick, it will bubble and pop. We don't want that. Okay, let's check this out. See, we're just about there. And then we can drop our next line in. Looking good. I think this guy is ready. So we'll pop him over. So you can see our crispy Parmesan cheese on there is looking pretty darn good. You get these next ones in a little bit longer. I want it to completely crisp up. While we're waiting for these last 3 to kind of crisp up, maybe another minute or so, I'm going to start working on our salad, and then we'll work on our salad dressing. We're going to do a white wine, kind of a creamy white wine vinaigrette. It was crazy too. So at the store last week, we were going there, all the milk and all of the bread, all of the meat minus pork chops were pretty much sold out last week. All of the salads, I got like a few bags of salad, but pretty much all of the bagged salad was sold out. All of the berries of all sorts were sold out. So like all fresh of anything was sold out because, people were expecting for it. So I was like, I really have slim pickings on everything. And it was just surprised me how much, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, we're all stocking up and it's going to be, such a mild storm. Well, thank goodness we all did because it has been quite the storm out there. So much ice. Now, we are thankful that we were able to cook everything, but I just imagine all those people who stocked up on frozen pizzas and lost power, because that was one section I wasn't expecting to be completely sold out of, but every frozen pizza was sold out in the stores. It was really, really interesting. We're going to get some peppers to go in our salad, just a nice kind of garden salad, some sweet peppers in here. Debeard them. Then I've got some tomatoes.
Mary sent you.
Well, thank you, Mary. We appreciate that. Let's see if this is ready. Beautiful, nice golden. See, anywhere you see this nice golden, that is the Parmesan cheese crisping up. So just gorgeous. Beautiful. I'm going to put it kind of the greasy side down so that that extra oil can seep out. We'll pop this here, and then we'll put our next round in. Now, the way when I do my chicken Parmesan, I always put some of it in the tomato sauce to soak up, and then some of it I just leave out because some of my kids prefer them outside of the tomato sauce. So this first rounds will go in, we'll do our cheese kind of coating on it, and then my next rounds will stay out and just be on the side for them because some, you know how some kids are, they like things separate. I think it's because, you know, school lunches, everybody has different compartments, so their foods can't touch. I felt like I grew up, it was like the casserole age where everything was mixed together on one plate. Okay, we've got our peppers in here. I've got our cucumber. We'll just cut off things. It's a baby cucumber, so we don't need to peel it, which is nice. We'll just slice it down. But if you're going to use a regular cucumber, just give it a good peel because, you know, those edges are always a bit tough. But baby cucumbers, English cucumbers have that nice, tender, delicate skin.
Do you ever make any casseroles?
I have made some casseroles before. I am not a huge casserole fan, nor my family are not. But I will say this fall, or maybe it was summer, I had a request to make a tuna casserole, which is something I hadn't made in a long time. And I made it for, you know, it was a friend, an older friend, and she really loved it, and she was really sick at the time, so I made it for her, and it was, apparently she loved it so much that she had like seconds of it on there, and so I was really happy that she enjoyed it. But I don't make a lot of casseroles. You know, I think I do a lot of pasta dishes, which I make almost in a pan like a casserole, but it's not quite the put in the oven and bake casseroles that we all kind of had growing up. You know, I think it's mainly because we're just not a casserole family on there. But there are some that are good, and I do some. I do like do my fresh green bean casserole, which is nothing like the southern casserole. My green bean casserole, it's so good, so good. Okay, we've got our garden fresh salad, and if you guys know anything about it, Evie is going to take 90% of these tomatoes. I'm going to have to fight her for a few of them because she loves tomatoes. Her salad will consist of these tomatoes and like 3 leaves and lots of dressing. So let's put this. We'll get this up here. Pop this on here. In just a second, we'll pop our noodles in here and we'll give them a good soak up. But again, I want this to simmer for a second. Let's check on there. We're about to actually grab our sourdough out of the oven, which is kind of perfect timing because then I can switch that to my air fryer setting. And then we're going to whip up our salad dressing on here. Here, my Loki over there snoring away on the pillows. He knocked off my bench. Let's grab this real quick. I'll slide this. So this is my black pepper and Gouda loaf. Grab this out on here, but look at that gorgeous. Been making my little mini loaves this year. That way we can eat through them all in one meal. And so we had ours when I laminated out. So it's my basic recipe. We laminated out, and then I put lots of ground black pepper in there, and then sprinkled it with Gouda cheese, and laminated it, like rolled it up, shaped it, put a little bit more on there, and then I let it proof in my fridge. This one's about a 48-hour proof on there, and then we baked it up, and this is such a good loaf. So good. Okay, While that is cooking here, we're gonna get ready to flip these. Let's make our dressing. I'll slide this over here because we're gonna use that in just a second. Oh, let me first put my oven to the air fryer setting. I'm gonna switch it to the air fryer setting because that's what we're gonna melt our cheese on top of our chicken parm real quick. So I meant to do it while I was over here, but we're gonna do that real quick. If your oven doesn't have an air fryer setting, you can do a convection bake. It's essentially the same thing. It does convection bake, air fry. It both blows the air around and keeps it at a high heat. If yours doesn't have a convection, if yours is even older, just do a higher bake at around a 450 and that should get you to it. Okay. Got my handy dandy salad dressing shaker thing. We're going to do a creamy white wine vinaigrette. So we're going to use some mayo. The difference, what makes the vinaigrette creamy is we sub in some mayo. Mayo works better than using actual cream in there. If you want a lighter, tangier dressing, you could sub in some Greek yogurt on there. I'm just not a yogurt lover, so I like to do it with mayo. Gives you kind of a richer, smoother base here too. Let it go through. Use up the rest of this. I always am surprised how much mayo we go through in our family. And it's mainly for salad dressings and dips because we don't really eat mayo straight up. Well, I mean, nobody really eats mayo straight up, but we're not like a condiment person where we're just putting it on there. We just like it in a lot of dips. Let me flip these guys over. Beautiful. Let's see, this one I want to turn in and let it fry a little bit more on that side. Same here, it's got a nice golden, but I want to bring it in the middle a little bit more. And then I'm just going to rotate my pan around and we'll let those cook up here a little bit higher. Okay, so we've got about 2 ounces, which is about 1/4 of a cup of mayo. And then we're going to use 1/4 of a cup of olive oil. There is a difference between 2 types of olive oil. The extra virgin olive oil, and then there's a regular one. Extra virgin is better for salad dressings. So we're going to use this one for our salad dressing. You don't have to remember it. If you just look on the bottle, it will tell you better for sauteing or better for salad dressings. And so it just has a slightly different taste into it, and it holds up heat better. So we're going to do equal parts olive oil and mayo. And then we're going to do about 2 tablespoons or so of white wine vinegar. I'm going to add that in here. Now, if you don't have white wine vinegar, you can also do apple cider vinegar or balsamic vinegar or red wine vinegar. You can really pick your bougie vinegar that you want to use for it. We're going to squeeze in juice from half of a lemon. And you want to use fresh lemon juice instead of like the true lemon or whatnot. It's just nicer flavor to it. And then we're going to add in some black pepper. We do about a 1/2 teaspoon. Some Italian seasoning. I'm going to do about a teaspoon. And then, of course, my oregano because I love oregano. I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of oregano. We're going to add in some grated Parmesan cheese. So we'll add about, you don't need a whole lot, like a tablespoon or so, but it's just going to pair up nicely with the thing. And then a little bit of garlic salt, which I know, because what is my husband going to remind me to do when we're done? Order more garlic salt. Because how could I have let it get to this low? There we go. He's holding it now. He's not going to let go of it.
You have like the kids out of school because of the storm?
Yes, we got the call earlier that they are out of school until through Friday. So hopefully they'll be back in on Monday. But you know what? I love it when they are home. I love these snow days. It's just great time to spend with the kids. Extra, you only have so many years with them until they're gone. So any extra free time I always say, is a bonus. So I'm happy that they are here and we get to just have some more time together. Okay. Give us a nice little shake up on there. Let's see. Delicious. Let me see if I can scoop in any more little mayo. I want it a little bit more creamy. We're going to scrape in this last bit. There you go. Got another teaspoon or so. And then we're going to mix our pasta in, and we'll start grating our cheese on. We'll tuck in our chicken. That should be good. Okay, we've got our white wine vinaigrette, creamy vinaigrette. So a little bit more smooth and a little bit less tangy than a straight up vinaigrette, which I tend to like a little bit better. Okay, so we've got our sauce here. Don't worry about your noodles. If you're going to pop them here, they're going to be a big log like this. But once you start mixing them into your sauce, they will come apart, which is my favorite part. You just have to give them a little dab of love on top. And then let me grab just a little shake. I do not coat my noodles with oil or butter because once you do, they won't soak in the sauce. And there we go. And that kind of prevents them from picking up all those flavors. When you put oil, butter on them, it gives them a coating on them, and it prevents them from soaking in the juices and the flavors of your sauce. And you want that. You want your noodles to pick up those flavors, which is why I cook them right at an al dente or a little bit more, a little bit under, so that they can soak up those extra flavors. So counter to our 90s, 80s pasta knowledge, where you served your noodles one here and your sauce separate, and you coated your noodles in oil or butter, mix them together. They will taste better the next day. They will have more flavor. They will stay unstuck. They won't turn into a starchy mess because look, just a little bit of mixing around and your sauce has completely broken them apart. And they will soak up all of that wonderful flavor. And you're not adding in more calories with extra butter and oil either, which will just prevent it from soaking in the flavors of the sauce, which is very important. Okay, these guys are just about ready. Beautiful. So we'll let them cook here for just a second. I'm going to start tucking in our other chicken over there. And then we will cover this with Parmesan cheese and we'll put that in the oven.
What's your kid's favorite salad dressing?
My kid's favorite salad dressing would have to be probably ranch dressing. They really love a ranch, although some of them really love my homemade Japanese dressing, which I don't make often because I have to get a blender out for that. And that one's, it's delicious and I love it, but it's a lot of steps. So that's like a miso ginger dressing. It's so good. You have carrots in it and it's so, so good. I'll let that sit for just a second here. I'm gonna let that crisp up. I'm gonna take my first ones in here. And remember, I'm not gonna dip all of them into my tomato sauce because some of my kids love them separate, but we're gonna put our chicken in here. And then we're gonna coat everything with a good layer of mozzarella cheese and we're gonna pop this in the oven. So we should have a good round on here to get our portions up. Actually think we have a perfect amount already out. Beautiful. So we've got those. Now, like true Parmesan fashion, we've got to coat it with some mozzarella cheese and Parmesan cheese. Use a good high quality. I like to use like a whole milk mozzarella cheese that's a thick cut. If you have freshly grated is even better because it won't have the anti-caking agent on it. But this is what I had. We're gonna mix it over. I think we'll just be good with one. So put that. And then we're gonna do our Parmesan cheese over the top. And then I'll pop that in the oven for its last little, it needs about less than, it's on the air fryer, so it just needs a few minutes for it to heat up. And then we can get our salad finished up, our last one chopped in, and we'll get ready to serve up. And then we can pull this out of the oven. There we go. Beautiful. Let's go slide this in our oven here. Now this is really just to melt the cheese on top. So I have my air fryer setting on, which means this is going to melt it really, really quickly. If you don't have an air fryer, convection bake 425 or your regular bake at 450. That will just take a little bit longer, less than 5 minutes. So by the time I switch this chicken out and put my next one in, clean up our area, we can get ready to serve up, we can pop that out. Okay. So we'll get this guy out, put that right here. And then let me slide these guys. On here. And again, we're just cooking these over a medium heat, around a 4.5 to 5. Don't go too high on your frying of the chicken because you won't have it cooked all the way through for it. There we go. And can get this, since we are done with this as well. On there. So let's get ours pretty much served up here. We've got our sourdough bread. We're going to bring this over here. And you know what? It's been about, I think it's been 5 minutes. We can cut into it and give it a nice look. See our crumb on it. Look at our beautiful, nice down there. This is our black pepper and our Gouda. Look at that. You can see those swirls of the black pepper around there and those bits of cheese in there. This is such one of my favorite loaves of bread. It'll be delicious. I'm going to make a slice for to put on our plate. Beautiful. We've got our salad. I'm going to slide this over here. Let's get our plate out and then we can go grab out of the oven because that should hopefully be melted by now. Nice and simple and easy, but scrumptious dinner. Oh, let's grab a plate. And I'll grab my Parmesan on here. And we can go check out because that should hopefully have melted by now. We just want a nice, good little even melting for it because you got to have that nice little ooze on there. Ah, perfect. Told you it wouldn't take very long to get our cheese melted for our delicious chicken Parmesan. Okay. I'm gonna have to do a little rearranging so I can move this. Slide this. And I'm gonna remember this is hot because I have taken, this is the one thing I forget when I slide it out of my oven. Sometimes I forget that this is hot. let's get served up. Keeping it safe. And tongs for our salad. Okay, are we ready? For dinner tonight, we have our chicken parmesan. Look at this wonderful cheesy pull. We're going to add that on there. So we have our pan breaded and fried chicken that we seasoned with Italian seasonings. We cooked up bow tie pasta in a marinara and a vodka sauce. On there, we added garlic and some onions to it. And then, of course, we topped everything off with our mozzarella cheese and some Parmesan. We're going to serve it with a slice of our homemade black pepper and Gouda sourdough bread. You can see the swirls of black pepper and the Gouda that we added during the lamination process. And then we have a nice garden salad that we're going to add on the side with tomatoes, cucumbers, and sweet peppers on there with our homemade creamy and white wine vinaigrette with some fresh lemon juice and Italian herbs and spices. So just a lovely but simple dinner prepped up tonight in no time. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to our page and search for what we made, and you can always watch and cook along with us again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets in it. It has all of my hex clad pans, my all clad pans, my knives, my cutting boards, all the different things that I use in the kitchen I have in there for you guys to check out. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe.